Yo, guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Marijuana SA Weekly. And today we are looking at an interesting topic that we've been really delving into, and that is the difference between rosin and BHO extraction. Dean's been going a bit extraction nuts lately, but we have been pushing it as a sort of thing that we want to really develop our expertise in, and we really want to get better at it. And I feel like it's going to be something that in the future of kind of business, kind of world, extraction, as you can see in all the legal markets, is a big thing. So yeah, we've been looking at it quite intensively, and Dean's got a cool bit of information that we've put together.
Yeah, so shot Andy, I'm super excited to be chatting about this. I must say extractions for me personally are my favorite way to consume cannabis. So it's a big passion of mine. I'm very much into rosin, but BHO has been something that we have been experimenting with recently, especially on the equipment side. So yeah, let's have a look at what we have prepared today. Here it is, a little bit of the drip so that we can see what's going on. So in the top right, we see some rosin. And in the bottom left, that's a piece of shatter. And basically, we're just going to talk about the two, just a couple of differences between the two methods. And before we get started, you can achieve incredibly high quality product that is pure using both methods, but obviously both methods have some pros and cons as well. So firstly, we'll have a look at the Rosin Press. This is a locally South African made rosin press. As you can see, it's basically a pressure item that has heating plates, those silver heating plates over there. And you basically utilize the heat and the pressure, as well as a rosin bag and some parchment paper. And then with quite a lot of finesse, you then press the oils out of the material that you're using. You can use various different kinds of material: trim, flour, hash. Hash is seeming to be the most popular to get sort of the very clean colors, but you can achieve very good rosin with all of the above. So it's a very nice method if you are wanting to experiment a lot, and you can get really good results once you know what you're doing. It is a bit of an art form though, making extracts though. So you're not going to off the bat achieve super high quality rosin. It's going to take you a lot of trial and error and temperatures and different strains yielding different results. And then we have our butane hash extraction equipment. On the left-hand side, we have a column. That's basically what you use to get your crude oil or to put your material into, and then to blast the butane through. Generally, you'd blast into like a Pyrex jar or something along those lines. And then once the majority of the butane has purged off, in the past, guys probably would have tried to like hustle that, but it's actually does still contain loads of impurities unless you take it through further steps. And then in the middle, you see the second step, which is a vacuum purge, a vacuum pump, and a purging chamber. And you would then basically like place the material inside once a majority of the butane has evaporated, and you would then use pressure to reverse pump the majority of the solvents that remain. And that's a very important step. And now we can have a look at some of the kinds of results that you can get. On the left-hand side, you see I like to call it a cake, cake in the oven. You can see the cake expanding quite heavily in the vacuum chamber. And then the middle and the right picture are two different results from two different strains. Actually, these are all my own. So the middle, we've got like a Dr. Grinspoon, and then on the right-hand side, we have a Platinum Gorilla. And you can see sort of vast differences in how the different strains actually turned out, So very interesting on that point. And then, let's jump into some of the major differences between the two types of extraction. We've got rosin on our left-hand side, and we've got BHO on our right-hand side. Looking at like the first thing is definitely the affordability. We saw that you only need a rosin press and a couple of smaller line items to get into pressing rosin. I mean, in South Africa, you can pick some decent ones up for about sort of 5,000 Rand or so, which is quite a high value, but you know, they'll last super long and you're going to be able to get a load out of it. Whereas on the BHO side, you're looking at multiple pieces of equipment, and there I'd say you're probably looking closer in the region of around like 20,000 Rand, you know? So
but it comes with, as with all of, it comes with its pros and cons. I mean, I could see why, you know, we'll cover it, I suppose, a bit more, but the time and although a rosin press is extremely reliable, you do have to factor in time and those sort of things. But yeah, no, it's the startup into BHO, I suppose, has been, it's more of an investment, I guess.
Yeah, and it requires more research, you know, like the rosin you're using heat and pressure, so it's, you know, it's 100% natural, whereas BHO, you have to pump a chemical over it. You either use butane or some people use propane as well. So you're using a solvent and introducing a chemical, which obviously comes with certain elements to it. The main element being that rosin is incredibly safe. You're not playing with any chems, whereas butane is, you know, it's in a lighter. It's highly, highly, highly flammable. So it's incredibly dangerous to make BHO if you are not following the correct safety protocols. So that's a major thing for people who are making BHO. And it's also, I think, a big reason as to why sort of you need to be educated before you start going into it. You know, you don't want to go and explode yourself or your house or something. And
it's not something, it's not something we would ever recommend, you know, to a beginner.
No, definitely not. I would say, you know, first educate yourself heavily, do all the research that you can, and then potentially get into it. You know, but it is dangerous. So that's a major point on this. And we're not going to go too much into sort of the methodology now, but it is something we just want to highlight because, you know, it's once again, you are using solvents, and butane is highly flammable.
And toxic as well, you know.
Yeah. So you need safety gear. You don't want to breathe it in. You don't want to have any flammable sources close by. All of those things, you know. So moving on a little bit, we've got our sort of processing time. As soon as you have finished pressing rosin, it's basically ready to
smoke it coming out of the press, basically.
Yeah, so if you've got drip going, you can have it like dripping straight into your dab rig, and that would be like 100% fine. Whereas BHO, you need to take it through multiple processes. You know, you've got your blasting, your first purge, your second purge. So you're looking at sort of a large amount of processing time where you're waiting, whereas with rosin it's kind of more hands-on, you know. We've also already mentioned it, but rosin requires far less equipment, whereas you're looking at multiple pieces of equipment with the BHO. I would personally say on this point that rosin pressing is more home friendly, whereas we're looking at sort of, well, I've said you require strict safety protocols. So you're looking for, you know, you've got to like really prepare nicely before you get into it. Whereas if you're just kind of wanting to start to experiment, rosin does seem to be the choice, because it's you know, it's a much easier to get into. And then on the material itself, with my experiences with rosin, you know, a lot of the time I've experienced it with trim as well. You know, you if you've dried it out too much, or if it isn't at the specific RH and it sort of hasn't been dealt correctly to deal with rosin, you don't get great results, you know. So you've got to be very careful.
Some people even spray, like they try and moisten it up before they do it, you know, like it's there's like with a spray bottle and things like that. So yeah, it can be something that fluctuates quite. Your input equals your output quite a lot.
And I've also actually seen it with strains, you know, like some specific strains just don't want to let go of I've had strains that have died the same amount of time, gone through the same curing process, you know, very similar environments, and the one oozes and the other one gives you nothing, you know, and you're like,
Yeah.
why is it not giving me anything? So you have to, I think specific strains, strain dependent on the, you know, it is like that across the board a lot of the time. You know, some strains are better for extracts, but I personally feel you get more, it's easier to get the material off the BHO, or while using the solvent, because the solvent just liquidizes and strips everything off, you know, whereas you are kind of manipulating heat and pressure and playing around with the press when you're trying to get your rosin to sort of come out of the rosin back.
On that note, it's not necessarily something that's you know, because it's simpler to get into it, like, you know, maybe more beginner friendly rosin. There is still an art to it and a technique that I think some people have like absolutely like profoundly narrowed down, you know, with pressures, temperatures, preparation of the material, things like that. So it's not necessarily just for noobs. You can get pretty expert in the rosin game, and it has its, you know, its attractive points being like completely solvent free, unprocessed. It's, you know, it's the very vegan way to go.
I remember when we got our first press that we ever landed at MSA, and you know, I'd done loads of research, and I was like, nah, I know exactly what we're doing, and it took so much trial and error and so much material
So much
for us to
waste.
actually like to actually get decent results, you know. So that's why I said it's an art form. You've got to play around a lot and learn your strains. But yeah, that it is, you know, it's once you've practiced a lot, it does get to be far easier, but it's every strain is unique when creating an extract. And on that, you know, the rosin is more time consuming if you're trying to do a volume of product. You've got to pack bags, and you know, there's the wait time in pressing. And whereas on BHO, even with the processing time, it's a lot of sort of hands off processing time where you're just waiting for the purge to finish and things like that. So in the scalability factor, I would say that it's probably more commercially viable to use solvent-based extraction versus going for rosin pressing. But I find personally, and the research that I've done over the last couple of days as well, I generally think rosin tastes better than BHO. So you're getting more from your BHO, so it's maybe more commercially viable, but high quality rosin has far more terpenes, because there's less processing going into it. Whereas, you know, there's loads of processing and wait time and introducing heat at multiple stages, some people. So you're getting maybe a less flavorsome product from the BHO, but it's got a higher yield. Whereas with the rosin, you're getting a more flavorful product, but it is, you know, it's taking you a lot more time to create that product. And also, if your material is not at the right, if your material isn't correct, you could see a lot of losses of material in the process as well.
Yes, and on that safety, just to reiterate one last time, just be careful in whatever you're doing with regards to these things. You know, this is more just a comparative. So you guys do have to go and do quite a lot of research, and just be careful regardless of whatever you're doing. On that note, thanks for joining us today and making our making our time doing this podcast enjoyable. You know, you guys that watch and stay right to the end mean the world to us. So let us know down below. Obviously, you probably watched this for a reason. If you have a preference, if you're doing anything at the moment on your own, what type of extraction, and yeah, we would love to hear from you guys. And until next week, peace.
Peace, guys.